Good evening. Whenever you're listening to this, get comfortable because we're about to talk about a fire that started thousands of miles away on a continent we called the Old World, but whose smoke eventually drifted across the Atlantic and changed America forever. This is the story of World War I, or as they called it, the Great War. My name is Eliza Sling. Henry Ford was revolutionizing the assembly line. Baseball was king. We were busy building the future, minding our own business, firmly following the advice of George Washington. No entangling alliances. Then, on June 28th, in a town called Sarajevo, 2 gunshots rang out. An Archduke, Franz Ferdinand, was killed. Did anyone in Kansas City or Brooklyn care? Not much. Sounded like typical European royal drama. But those shots were the seismic event that shattered the whole rickety old structure of European alliances. Within weeks, the whole continent was a battlefield. Germany was fighting France and Russia. Great Britain jumped in. Everybody thought it would be a quick, glorious war, a boys will be boys kind of affair. They were wrong. So terribly, horribly wrong. The German army was stopped in France, and what happened next was unprecedented. They dug in. They created the trenches. These weren't just holes. They were rat-infested, muddy, brutal labyrinths stretching for hundreds of miles. Life in the trenches was hell on earth. Machine guns turned courage into instant tragedy. Artillery blasts pulverized the landscape. This was a meat grinder. In America, our President Woodrow Wilson kept his chin high and his policy firm. Neutrality. We had German Americans, Irish Americans, British Americans, all with divided loyalties. Wilson's job was to keep the United States out of that quagmire. But we couldn't help but make money. We were selling guns and steel and food, mostly to the Allies, Britain and France. We were neutral in name, but our cash register favored one side. Chapter 2. Submarines and Sentiment, 1915 to 1916. Germany understood this. They knew the lifeline to the Allies ran right across the Atlantic. Their weapon? The silent, terrifying U-boat, the submarine. May 7th, 1915, a German U-boat torpedoed the British luxury liner Lusitania. Nearly 1,200 people were killed, among them 128 Americans. That's when the war got personal. That was a gut punch to the American public. Suddenly, this European mess was washing up on our shores. Wilson protested, threatening a break in relations. Germany backed off for a while, fearing the massive industrial might of the USA. Wilson, meanwhile, won re-election in 1916 on a powerful slogan. He kept us out of war. But a storm was coming. Chapter 3. The Breaking Point, 1917. The German High Command made a desperate, colossal mistake. They decided to risk it all. In early 1917, they resumed unrestricted submarine warfare. They announced they would sink any ship, including American ones, bound for Britain. Their calculation was chillingly simple. They could knock out Britain before the sluggish giant, America, could mobilize and intervene. Then came the final insult, the absolute tipping point, the Zimmermann telegram. This was a secret message from the German Foreign Secretary to Mexico. It proposed a military alliance. If the U.S. entered the war, Mexico should join Germany. In return, Germany promised to help Mexico reclaim its lost territories of Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Our land? Our sovereignty? Forget neutrality. This was a direct threat to the American homeland. The combination of our citizens being killed at sea and our borders being threatened made the decision inevitable. On April 2nd, 1917, President Wilson stood before Congress. He wasn't talking about trade anymore. He spoke of idealism, of destiny. He declared that America's purpose was to fight for the ultimate peace of the world and to make the world safe for democracy. April 6, 1917, the United States of America was at war. Chapter 4, The Yanks Are Coming. America needed a massive gear change. We launched a massive mobilization effort. The draft was instituted, the economy shifted, factories that made cars now made tanks. Women stepped up to work in ways they never had before. It became a national movement. Buy Liberty bonds, save food, defeat the Huns. Our soldiers, called Doughboys, were young, fresh, and utterly unprepared for the scale of industrialized warfare. They were commanded by General John J. Blackjack Pershing. When the AEF, the Allied Expeditionary Forces, finally landed in France, the Allies were almost broken. France and Britain had lost a generation. They were exhausted, cynical, and desperate. The arrival of the Doughboys was like a shot of adrenaline. They were seen as clean-cut, energetic, and most importantly, unlimited. They represented America's massive, untapped potential. In the spring of 1918, Germany launched their final massive offensive. It was win or lose for them. They threw everything they had at the Allied lines. Chapter 5, The Final Offensive and the Legacy. The battle lines held, in large part thanks to the fierce stand of the American troops at places like Belleau Wood and Château-Thierry. The American Marines earned their legend there, refusing to retreat and facing the enemy head-on. Then came the decisive battle, the Meuse-Argonne Offensive. This was the largest battle in American military history, involving over 1 million doughboys. For 47 days, they pushed through dense forest and concrete bunkers. It was brutal, costly, and ultimately the move that broke the back of the German resistance. The German army was exhausted, short on supplies, and facing an opponent that simply would not stop coming. The war was over. On November 11th, 1918, at 11 a.m., the guns fell silent. Armistice Day. Across America, the whistles blew, the bells rang, and the streets erupted in a cathartic celebration. But the victory came with a profound cost. Over 116,000 Americans died in the trenches and from disease. The USA had tasted the bitterness of European conflict. President Wilson traveled to Paris, determined to shape the peace. He brought his vision, the League of Nations, an organization to ensure that nothing like this could ever happen again. But Wilson's idealism clashed with the old world desire for revenge, which resulted in the harsh Treaty of Versailles. And tragically, the U.S. Senate ultimately rejected the League of Nations. They wanted to go home. They wanted to return to isolation. The Great War had done the impossible. It had forced America to realize its power, its responsibility, and its potential for sacrifice. We entered as a young nation focused on itself and emerged as a global superpower, although we didn't want the job yet. But that harsh treaty, that sense of unfinished business, that deep American refusal to stay involved, it set the stage for the next, even greater conflict just